Most everyone is familiar with motocross, but what is this hare scrambles racing about? What is it that makes someone who is a reasonably mature and rational person put on all that racing gear and go out to the starting line with 100 or so other bikes, all with the same intention, to go as fast as they can and to beat everyone else? The races are for 2 grueling hours. The white flag indicates the last lap. We're glad to see it. Fast riders who have fallen behind are trying to catch up, but they're rapidly running out of time.
Nope. There's the AA guys right there. Hit by the car.
Why would anyone want to look like this rider? All this to receive a trophy?
New Strong.
Third place to Brad Street.
Hey, Brad.
Is that pronounced right? Stretz.
Good job, Brad.
Thank you.
Riders meet before the race to be briefed on the starting procedures, track rules, any changes made to the track since practice time, and to hear any other announcements.
Okay, I think we got everybody that's going to be here shortly anyway. Thanks for all of you guys coming. Most of you know the landowner, a fellow named David Dillingham. We really need to thank him for letting us use the property. Thanks, Dave! Because without it, we couldn't have events like this. Start will be typical board situation. We'll go 30 seconds, 15 seconds. Anytime after the 15 seconds shows up, we'll drop the board down, start the engine, go. For those of you that might be new, it is a dead engine start. The start area is right down here in the corner. There should be stakes lined up there to show your class.
The Heartland race has been canceled. If you guys hadn't seen it on the computer, some issue with insurance. Came out on the course and they need help. Let us know up here at the scoring. We'll get someone out there. Those people that know the area quite well, I'd really ask you in particular to take note, get up here and get us directed back where we need to be. Hopefully we're not going to have any problems.
Riders are a generous group, holding fundraisers for worthy charities.
Today's our fundraiser for the St. Jude's Children's Hospital.
Proper preparation of the bike is critical in surviving the day and being able to ride the bike at a sustained, fast pace. This rider is making adjustments to his tire pressure to withstand the rocks at this particular track. While waiting for their turn during the team race, these riders check their bikes over carefully. There is a wide variety of rider skills on the track, as you can see. The suspension of modern dirt bikes is capable of absorbing huge bumps, as seen in this slow motion clip. The course is marked with arrows and ribbons. If one of the markings goes down, as in the case here, the course doesn't change. Oh well. There are so many ways in which riders can help each other. Here I am late lining up and discover there is no more space on my row. Steve offers to move over to make some room. When you're late to the starting line, you have to take what you can get. This KDX is stuck up to its seat in the mud, and so is the Good Samaritan who stopped to help. It looks like they could use one more hand. At the start, bikes line up on their designated row with others in their class and wait for the signal to start. The fastest class is in the first row, and the beginners or mini bikes are in the last row. Each row starts at 1 minute intervals. When given a signal to start, riders on the frontmost rows start their engine and begin the race. Often, riders in other rows will practice start their bikes too to get a feel for how the starting person works and to gain confidence that the bike will start. Sometimes, even the best prepared bike will fail just when needed most. Riders try to maintain a straight line from the start to avoid collisions with other riders. Here is a rider's perspective from the 7th row. You can see a track official running around checking riders. A mishap at the start is probably the most dangerous, due to the high speed, congestion, and dust caused by all the bikes. This rider was lucky and slid away from the traffic. Here is a rider's view of a race start. Notice the rider focusing on the starter person in the upper center of the screen. The object here is to get a good start in front of the pack to avoid being slowed down by collisions, dust, and stalled bikes. Uh-oh. Ouch. Lesson learned. Be careful of a new tire until you get used to it. I found out after the race that the leader in this trail rider class crashed after just going around that corner, but he was okay. Some riders bring friends or family to help hold the bike. Help during the race. Just offer encouragement.
Go, Matt!
Team races held occasionally are a great way for riders to make new friends and improve their riding skills. Here, a team is swapping an armband which must accompany the rider while on the course. The team races usually run for 3 hours with 2 riders and 1 or 2 bikes. This rider is doing an Ironman, which means all 3 hours on his own. He certainly saves time by not switching riders. Here is a dad turning over the token to his son for his first ever race lap. And having completed that lap, switching the token back to the dad. The race bikes use at least a gallon of high-octane gas per hour. It's best to make sure you have enough gas to make it, or at least plan to stop for a refilling, or you will be looking for someone to bring you some. The Hare Scrambles track has plenty of hazards from the track itself and the riders on the track. Here is an example of a typical corner slide out. All of the riders behind him managed to avoid him while he was down. Unfortunately, it turns into a pileup when he picks up the bike with the throttle on full and the bike still in gear. Look how this rider gets through this gate, just narrowly missing it. This rider's not quite so lucky. What's really amazing is that he was able to finish the race He only lost 1 minute on that lap, as you can see by the web page here. Pretty good, Terry. This rider is having to deal with a flat tire. And then other mishaps. This can't be explained at all. The rider on the blue bike here rode the entire race with a broken arm. This is known as the Flying W.
Oh! Damn, I thought he was gone.
Let's look at it again in slow motion. This KDX rider makes it through the rutted, muddy hill after it starts to rain. But his buddies aren't so lucky. While riders are stuck on most of the uphill routes, other riders wait at the bottom looking for an alternate route or waiting for someone to show them the way up. Riders will often stop to help a stuck rider because it's the right thing to do, or maybe to get them out of the way. This deceptively easy-looking hazard claimed several unsuspecting victims.
He's getting himself in a big hole. There you go. Come on, buddy. Get it up there. Get it up there.
Why couldn't he get it up?
He got it.
Why he couldn't get it up?
There's a root over there he couldn't see. Got another one. Watch out, guys, okay?
Myself included. Meanwhile, back at the mud hole in Westmoreland, not much going on here. The riders are only a stone's throw away from the finish line, but can't seem to get out. One rider even gave up and ran to the finish line. I'm still not sure if he got scored without his bike. Maybe if he had taken his number plate with him. Sometimes the hazards are not so obvious, but the determined rider picks up his bike and continues on, cautiously, checking for any bent or inoperative controls. There are women riders too, and this rider apparently flipped for the woman on the bike ahead of him. Alternate lines are another way to get through an obstacle or to pass a slower rider. Good riders will scope out these alternate lines during the practice lap. Here is what it is like to not have an alternate line and lose the lead when a rider from a previous row gets stuck. Here's another example of losing time when another rider blocks the trail. A good rider will keep his eyes up and anticipate this incident, and then scan for an alternate route before getting blocked. Also, try not to kill the engine. Without the support crew, there would be no race. These folks mark the track, register the riders, sell concessions, and score the riders. This flag girl seems to really have her own style. Let's look. You have to look real closely to figure out what's happening in that one. Selling videos moments after a race. And the EMT, or medical person. Race days are a good time to check out the others' bikes and latest technology.
Hey, you've got a stabilizer too. Cool.
I don't know what it does, if it does any good or not.
The way you two look, I think you're right.
I mashed my face in the dirt back there, so I'm not sure.
I know, everybody's talking about it.
I'm Tom, by the way.
Sandy Jackson.
Sandy Jackson, nice to meet you. Tom Black.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
Bowl sessions are common in racing. This group watches as a rider speeds through their pasture. But they're not very interested. Here is the famous fender bender all set to go. Perhaps this rider just can't decide if he wants to do this or not. Johnny Bravo. The 2004 champion Adrian with his trademark stand-up riding style. And the Oakland River Rat. 2004 A-Class champion. The numbering system identifies riders by their class. 1 to 199 for AA class, the 200 series for A class, the 300s for B class, and so on. Riders can earn a 2-digit number. This rider, number 65, starts on the 6th row and finished 5th the previous year. This rider, number 603, starts on the 6th row, probably finished 3rd in a slower row the previous year and moved up for the year. Tree climber. Brad Stretz.
Oh, no, that's 800. There he is. There's my husband.
Tried and true methods are used to communicate from rider to crew.
What did he say? Do you understand him? What was that?
I said that may be it for me.
Why?
Tore a hamstring.
Oh, honey, are you all right? Oh my God, did you fall? Is that how it happened?
Yeah. Well,
Pretty bad.
yeah. Tore my muffler off again.
Oh man. Well, you're not as muddy as last time, at least.
Oh no.
Tell me.
Huh?
Huh? Yep. The only
I was in second.
Tom's muffler. Oh. Do that. Look at that baby. It's yours.
Back to the top and I'll bring it down.
Nice. Is it racing hour? When they break it out. Racing hour. Little juniors or seniors over there.
There's some pretty wicked rocks in a couple spots, ain't there?
Everybody's having fun.
That one where you go up that little hill, you go in between that big old like a ledge.
Oh yeah.
And my foot's back just hitting when I was jump around there's another way around it though.
That's what happened to me. I tried to get
Check up a little bit.
Did I get you back? I can't remember.
No, you stayed in second spot.
Okay. I thought I got. I don't know. I crashed.
Some of the venues include peewee races. Their course is kept within sight of anxious parents.
That make me look bad.
No comment. Here's an example of a courteous rider letting a faster one pass by pulling off the track.
Dad!
Here comes our number 725, finishing up his second moto after having such a disastrous first moto.
Oh really, man?
Matter. Yeah, there. So you're third. I got some good footage over there.
That was the best riding I've ever done in my life.
Really? How come?
I don't know. It just all fell together.
Got to get some pit action.
Yeah. That's where the races are won and lost in the pits.
Yeah, that's the interesting stuff.
Okay, now with the aid of the helmet cam, let's take a ride on a really fast bike, ridden by a AA rider. Notice the intense concentration on the starter, and the instant engine start at the drop of the flag. Notice how Brian is headed for the inside of this corner. You wouldn't expect somebody to try and pass him on that side, but look how the front end comes up with every power surge. Here the bikes must thread single file through the space between two trees that is narrower than the handlebars are wide. This straightaway has a slippery mud hole right in the middle of it, but it doesn't stop Brian from reaching speeds up to 60 miles an hour. This serpentine section is designed to slow down the bikes as they approach the scoring tent. Brian gets scored and some encouragement from his buddies as he passes through. Some races are held adjacent to a motocross track, which can be used as part of the 7-mile hare scramble course. Hare scramble bikes are usually set up more for woods riding, so they don't do jumps as well as a motocross bike, but that doesn't seem to be slowing down these riders. Power. These bikes have it. Tremendous fun factor.
Nice.
And yet these bikes have to be able to thread their way through the woods without working the rider too hard. While the woods is fun, I like to go fast. This field has terrace jumps, regularly spaced to add to the fun. There are lots of different types of terrain the rider will encounter. This is probably one of the worst for me, besides muddy uphills. The creek crossing, with bikes blocking all the good lines. This is the creek I stopped at to help someone out during the practice, but this time I'll just try going through it without losing a position. Uh-oh, 715 took the creek better than I did and was smart enough not to follow me on my line. The slag hills of Carbondale are a challenge for many with its slippery, off-camber, grooved, rocky trails. Okay, I just got passed by a mini bike. We'll let him set the pace for a while. Riding along the lake at Milford is nice, but I doubt if many of the riders appreciate the scenery as they are pretty busy riding. This fun, uphill, barren, rock-strewn field always reminded me of what it would be like riding on the moon, or Mars. Riding on Tony's farm is always fun. Uh-oh, I should have been paying attention. I just missed the turn to the scoring barn. New Strawn is basically a reservoir overflow area and usually rewards the fastest bikes with a higher average speed. I love these terraced fields. These riders are racing through rough stutter bumps to the barn. So they can ride through it. This was something novel, for sure. One of the great draws for keeping a rider coming back is the feeling you get when you know you've done better.
That's the best I think I've ever run. Again.
You didn't pull a hamstring.
Then I did pull a hamstring.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, Jay, no hamstring.
After the race, riders visit, recover, and discuss the race.
And your number, what's your number again?
328.
328, okay.
Thanks.
Actually, on the start, you and I were side by side. I mean, I figured that was you.
That was me.
And then actually you were pulling me. And then I guess I was taking a wider turn. So I kept the throttle on longer, and then I started to get ahead of it.
When I went in the corner, too much rear brake and the back end washed out.
Shortly after the race, riders can see their lap times and placement on computerized score sheets. Sometimes drawings for great prizes are held.
59. Let's come on up here and do the drawing. Okay? Okay. Reach up in there. Let's get one of them. And the tires go to Jeff Fenton. All right. And first. first to Jason Edmonds. And first to Brad Stretz. Thank you all for coming. I hope you had a good time and hope to see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
Bring out some of your motocross buddies.